What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports MLB Swing for the Fences show. I'm your host, Mangone, and I'm back with two of the best in the industry, two great minds. First up, we got Hoopster. Hoop, how's it going over there? How was your PGA weekend and MLB weekend?
Decent start to both. Had a solid, or not decent start to PGA. Had a solid PGA week. Had one good team. I mean, you basically had to have Finau and Wolf. I mean, everything else busted kind of at the top. So I had one good team with them that did well. In terms of MLB, it was pretty solid, up and down. Had some good days, had some bad days. Just happy to have it back. But man, these rotations took a turn for the worse real quick. And we don't have many pitching options, so it makes the slate pretty interesting tonight.
Yeah, definitely spot that you can get a little creative, and that's a spot you can do that in tournaments, JT. We were talking pre-show. You are on the playbook for us over here at Run Pure Sports, and you were saying when you're getting a playbook together on this type of slate, it can get pretty dicey with the pitching.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at who are the guys that I'm going to play and thinking about how to give some different options. And the thing about it, it's the same thing we faced all weekend. I mean, yesterday I had probably the craziest luck that I've ever had playing this. I built a couple of lineups that I really liked with the Phillies, some one-offs, and tried to get off the board of pitching with Greinke and Kluber. And that wasn't so good. So I'm looking at this today, and I can count literally on half of one hand the pitchers that I feel comfortable may go 5 innings. And then there's just so many question marks up and down the lineup of who you could throw out there. So it's definitely a night where, certainly I'm going to have a multi-entry on a couple of the DK contests. And I'm going to go, heavy on a couple of guys. And then I'm going to do a lot of 10 and 15% and see if I can catch lightning with one of these guys that just has an outlier start.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you on that. It is rough. I think the approach I'm going to take, when you were kind of talking, JT, I was like, man, I think I'm going to take the big T approach and just go pretty heavy on like certain pitchers that I have confidence in. And we'll get to him, obviously, when we talk about him. He did that with Trevor Bauer, and then obviously worked out really well. Again, we don't have a Trevor Bauer on the mound, but that might be the approach that I end up taking. Guys, we got about 69 of you in the chat right now. So if you could, guys, please hit that like on the video. It helps us out a ton. Subscribe to the channel if you want to get all of our content and get updates when we go live. And we're going to be doing some t-shirt giveaways here on the Run Pure Sports Show. We might give away a bet shirt. We'll have to see how it goes. Depends on how your guys' likes are and how we're feeling throughout the show. So we'll give away some swag, though, for the people. Depending on how many likes we get to, we'll decide about, what do you think, Hoop? What do you think we want to do, 150, or do you want to try and up it?
Well, we got so many people we have sprinkling in here, but let's set it at 150 like we have done the last few days, and see if we can get there. We have to make some adjustments on the fly, though. We'll see.
All right, yeah. Well, so we'll keep it. We'll keep it at least one shirt for 150, and then we'll see if we give a second for more. That's what we'll do right now. So 150, we'll start it off with for the first one, and then we'll decide the next one after we kind of get through some things. So let's kick it off, and let's go to you first, Hoop. I need the chalk. I need the cash take. What am I doing at pitching, right? There's not a ton at the top to like, so it's going to be interesting to hear what your choice is.
Well, I mean, my player pool for pitching is very, very small, kind of like what JT touched on there in the opening. There's just not many options, not many guys you feel comfortable with. You see, we have some teams where, they have the starter and then the long relief guy with what the Red Sox are doing today, so it just limits your options. But I think the guy that's going to be most popular is Josh James for the Astros. Pretty cheap, very cheap on both sides. Big favorite at home against the Mariners. The only spots for concern is really, we haven't seen him in this sort of position before. A guy we've seen as reliever in the big leagues, and in the minors he had a high strikeout rate. So kind of banking on that, and it's a tough slate. So he's going to be pretty popular, I think. All the sites have him projected way up there. High projected strikeout guy too. So he's going to be highly owned. I'm going to be, mostly on him. The other guy I have some interest in is Glasnow for the Rays at home. Pretty decent favorite, about minus 150. Gets the pitcher's ballpark. So I'll be on him. Maybe a little bit of Fulte on the other side, but honestly, my player pool at pitcher is really small. It's going to be probably those three guys, and honestly, maybe nobody else.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Definitely agree with you on a lot of those pitchers. There's not a lot to like, but I think keeping a tight core on some of these guys is going to be a good approach today. And then maybe mix it up with the bats more. That's what I would be doing. JT, is that what you're doing? Have you gotten creative and found a pitcher for us that maybe might be a little off the board for the people?
Well, I mean, like's a strong word on this slate. I think, though, for tournaments, when I see that, Josh James, who's a guy who's making his first start in really about a year, because he had a couple of spot starts early, sort of towards the midpoint of last season, did really well. He's got an electric arm. But then he was pitching 1-2 games. He not that I saw, I couldn't find that he even pitched really much in the intra-squad games. It was more simulated games. And so at 70% ownership in tournaments, that's one of those things where I'm like, okay, it worked out really well yesterday, obviously. Bauer, Carrasco, the chalk. And I was not high on Carrasco coming off of, missing a year with leukemia, and he proved me wrong. He pitched lights out. Josh James is a guy that I'm not really worried about getting off of in tournaments. And when I say getting off, is being a little bit underweight. Glasnow is a play that I'm on. Is a guy that, I typically like to look at those Sunday night teams that have to travel the next day. And with the Braves having an offensive slugfest yesterday, I don't expect them to do that again. Glasnow has been really, really good. And I think this is a year where he takes another step up. So I like Glasnow quite a bit. After that, it gets tough. Dylan Cease is a guy who's looked pretty good in the intra squads. Cleveland's a team that, should be offensively much better than they are. And obviously they had a good game yesterday, but going on the road, that's a small park and I don't love it. But Dylan Cease, I don't love the price on him, but that's a place where I might take a couple of shots. I might take a couple of shots on Michael Wacha against a Red Sox offense that doesn't seem as dominant as it was in years past. Again, this is tournament only. This is like maybe 10, 15%. And then, after that, it's kind of like Hauser. I don't expect to pitch, much more than 4 or 5 innings. The Brewers have been pretty liberal about getting their bullpen pretty early. That Cincinnati matchup, John Lester's good games have been when he's able to go deep in games. His pitching numbers, I don't expect that in this start, even though it's worth pointing out that David Ross has shown early on that he's going to be good for those pitchers. He's going to let his pitchers go deep. He's going to listen to them when they tell him, hey, I've got another batter, another inning in me. But 9-2 for Lester with that weather and that park first start, I just don't see it. Kendall Graveman is 4-9 against Houston. Nobody's going to play him. He's been up at 96, 97 miles an hour with a new four-seamer that they like. He may only go 4 innings or 5 innings, but you know what? If I can get 14, 15 from him, pair him with Glasnow in tournaments, that's a tactic I'm going to try tonight. Not a lot. I'm not going to go 50%. I might not go 10%, but it intrigues me. Other than that, there's just not a lot. It's just not a lot to love. Detroit's got an opener. Montgomery at 6-5 first start. He had a couple of really good starts against Detroit, but I just don't love it.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I get it. It's definitely rough down here. There's not a lot of guys to like. I mean, I'm trying to look around and see and just talk myself into someone like Adrian Hauser, JT. I don't know if you dug into him. I don't even know if you mentioned him and I missed it, but he's going up against the Pirates, right? And the Pirates aren't good, and that stadium is a great stadium to attack in Pittsburgh. And he looks like he's going to be low owned. Do you think he could be someone that we could have interest in? Or are there any other arms maybe on the slate that maybe they're just not going to go long enough and we can't even touch them?
Hauser's a guy that I would, I wish he was 6'5". I wish he was not 8'3". I wish I had more confidence. Council's been pulling his pitchers early. Obviously, he had good reason in one of those games, obviously, to get rid of that the guy yesterday. Hauser's a guy that will probably end up in my pitcher pool just because it's so tough today, and to round out 150 and have enough of a feel, I want 5 or 6 pitchers. He's a guy who could do well. And again, your upside in what you expect as far as the highest scoring pitcher on this slate is probably 20, 25 points, and if I can get 15, 16 out of Hauser, that's enough for me on this slate.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Like I said, I'm trying to find different ways to get creative and get unique. Hoop, I want to ask you about your Detroit Tigers, right? We talked this weekend about the Royals and how bad that lineup is. I mean, it is terrible. Michael Fulmer, I mean, he's a guy that isn't going to get ownership. We didn't see him last year either. And he's a guy that was supposed to be like a highly touted guy. If you look at some of his numbers too against righties, he's pretty good. And those Royals have a ton of, their best hitters are righty. And then if you look at the lefties, those lefties aren't that good. So overall, I think Fulmer could be an interesting tournament option. Hoop. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, he's a guy that out of the gates looked really strong a few years back or a couple years ago, and then kind of fell off last season before that. Not a guy I'm typically on, and honestly, just to be very blunt, like I'm playing James and I'm playing Glass now, and I really don't think I'm playing anybody else. I guess it kind of depends how many teams I end up building, but I'm kind of aiming for like the 15 to 20ish range. I'm just going to lock those guys and move on. Maybe a little bit of the Hauser. I don't mind the Hauser call. He's a decent favorite here. Good pitcher's park. So I like him a little bit against a pretty bad offense. But I don't think I'll be going to Fulmer. I'm going to keep it very tight, like I said, and just hope those guys get the job done for me.
All right, JT, do you have any interest in the Fulmer idea? And I mean, another guy at top I'm looking at is Fultonevich. Obviously, he could be an interesting pivot that people might talk themselves into. I think he could be intriguing too as well.
I actually spent a lot of time this afternoon looking at both Fulmer and Fulte. And Fulmer, the comments from the manager are, if he gets a quick third inning, we might give him a fourth, right? And we saw how the bottom of that Kansas City lineup is really bad. But the thing that intrigues me about the Kansas City lineup is it looks like potentially after Fulmer, they're going to get a lefty coming into that game. I think his name is Tyler Taylor Alexander, who is not very good. And so for Fulmer, if he gets into a little bit of trouble, a couple base runners on, I think it's going to be even earlier than that. So at 6'5", I just would rather take shots elsewhere. I'd rather try and get up maybe to Hauser if that's the strategy I'm going to do. Fulte. That price 10-3 is just not a price that I want to pay for him. On his first start, his velocity was way down in the 90s. His last summer squad game, intra-squad game, he got lit up a little bit by the Marlins. That doesn't bother me in and of itself. It's just that I also don't think he's going to go very long. He might make his way into my player pool, but no more than 5%.
Yeah, it's just, man, it is rough out here looking at everything. The one last guy I'm thinking of that could be interesting. He's too expensive though, right? And I'll ask you about this one, JD. Aaron Savale, against the White Sox. I mean, he can kind of be interesting, but again, there's too much weather there, right? Let's say the weather cleared. Is he someone that you get on more?
It's more the price on him, and even on a short slate, if I'm gonna pay that price, he's just not the guy that I want to pay it for. There's no. To me, the equity of some of these other guys at a cheaper price, I mean, he's more expensive than Glasnow. He's more expensive than James. He's more expensive than Dylan Cease. So I just don't feel that his upside in this matchup warrants that price.
Yeah, listen, I don't disagree. And Twig DFS in the chat, he is asking any interest in Anibal Sanchez, and he could make sense as a leverage player, right? The Blue Jays have a high total. That's something we could maybe look at today when the pitching is just so bad. Why not just play the numbers game on ownership and try and leverage the field, JT? Is that someone that might be in the playbook or you have interest in?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't. Just because I'm focused on the DK slate, I haven't taken a look at him. Take a look at his price now and see the Blue Jays in that stadium. I don't know about that. I got to take a look at that Anibal, and I'll get back. I'll get an answer on that.
Yeah, and that total's come up a little bit too in that game. It's all the way up to 10.5. I mean, he was on my list for FanDuel, but don't think you want to go there now. I mean, the Blue Jays now have a team total over 5. So I don't love that play all that much.
Yeah. If he's a FanDuel only, I'd probably go elsewhere on FanDuel for guys that have better win equity.
Yeah, I will say if you look at his numbers and like again, like a lot of the guys in the lineup are righties, right? Like I don't know, it could be interesting, but it just seems he's like that junk ball pitcher, right? He can get it done at times. So if someone said it, I could get it, but I get why you guys are off it. And I'm kind of with you. I want to just stick on Josh James and Glass now and just get different in tournaments at the bats. We talk about this all the time. Hoop, you always talk about it. You can play the Red Sox lineup and just play like Jackie Bradley Jr. and you're going to be like kind of different there. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, Tony and I have kind of hammered that the last couple of shows where you just the way things are set up right now in MLB DFS, the way you get unique is you can, if you're going to play a popular stack, differentiate it by going to the bottom and don't be afraid to leave some money on the table either. I mean, the variance is super super high in the sport. Can definitely win GPPs, big GPPs, with leaving a good chunk of change on the table. And the way the pricing is, like especially on FanDuel, the pricing is so soft. Especially today with a guy like James, he's 6'7". If you play him, like it kind of forces you to play all these expensive bats. Well, don't do that. Play some of the cheaper guys and leave money on the table, and you'll automatically be different right away. A large majority of DFS players just look to fill that salary. They want to see the zero where it says salary remaining, and that's not always definitely not the right approach.
Yeah, if you look, say you build a lineup and it has a Red Sox stack on FanDuel, you have James, and you're just like staring at it, and you're like, man, it looks too chalky. Just change Benintendi to Jackie Bradley Jr. Leave the 300. Obviously, you could just leave more, but
yeah.
There's guys that are just always underpriced. Like a guy like Yoenis Cespedes feels really cheap over there on FanDuel. I don't know if I need the money to do it, but let's say you have like a 3,600 guy. You
definitely want to pivot off him today because he didn't make his way into the lineup. So.
Oh, he didn't get the lineup. Oh, never mind. Yeah, don't play him then.
You definitely want to find a pivot for Cespedes today.
That's unique, though. The pinch hit home run for the win.
Yeah, that's the contrarian approach right there.
It's happened before, but yeah, just the point I was trying to make is on like sites like a FanDuel where like the salary really doesn't matter. There's some good hitters down here. There's guys that can go yard. So I wouldn't. I recommend leaving money on the table. I think it's a good strategy. Don't recommend playing guys that are not in the lineup trying to hit that pinch hit home run. Maybe you'll get lucky, but not something I would end up trying to do. Let's anything else you guys want to talk about here, Hoop or JT, or you want to go on to the stacks and the batters?
Move on to the bats.
All righty, let's move on to the bats, and we're going to go game by game for the bats. I know Hoop likes that, so we'll go game by game here and kind of talk about bats as we're going, guys we like in cash games, guys we like in tournaments, and the way we're going to stack them up. So we'll kick it off with the first game here. We'll keep on the FanDuel slate. We'll go with the Blue Jays and Nationals game. Obviously, you can't play them over on DK. Let's kick it off with you first, Hoop. What do you like in this game stack-wise?
Yeah, I like the bats on both sides. Like I said, when we talked about Sanchez, that total has come up, and now it's all the way up to 10.5. So, I mean, both teams have an implied run total over 5, which is a sweet spot for DFS. I don't think either spot will be overly popular, so I'm not worried about ownership whatsoever. The only problem I have with the Nationals stacking them is their lineup just kind of sucks when you look at it. I mean, obviously you got Trey Turner up top. He's a great one-off play, great tournament play, great cash game play, but the rest of that lineup is kind of brutal. I mean, after him, I think the guy I'd have most interest in would be Thames. He's batting 6. But, man, they're going to be a tough team to stack this year just because their lineup is so weak. So probably be more one-off guys for me in the Nationals lineup, Turner and Cabrera. And then, I definitely have some interest in the top of the order for the Blue Jays, and I don't expect the ownership to be all that high. Like a little bit more, like I said, with that total coming up a little bit.
Yeah, no, listen, I agree with you. Definitely have to like the bats in this game. The one thing I'm just confused by, like Anibal Sanchez, like I said, I look at the numbers. He didn't have bad numbers last year, but again, a year older, and he's not the best player. JT, these young Blue Jays, they're popping in all the models, right? If you look, and people have interest because the Vegas total is obviously up there. Same with the national side, but it's kind of gross. What side are you looking on in this game as your favorite stack spot?
Yeah, I mean, I think we keep waiting for this Blue Jays team to break out. I watched them a little bit, and I will tell you, Vlad Guerrero Jr. is one of these guys who he's just all of a sudden gotten a lot bigger. And he's a guy that I actually worry about is he a guy that's going to have trouble staying in shape? And that's happened to some of these talented prospects, and he hasn't been impressive to start this year. Tellez, I think at first base at 2-3 is a guy that you could look at against Sanchez. He, will pop off for a random, really big game. On the Washington side, I would look at the bottom of that order. Actually, you saw big games from Robles and Taylor over the weekend. If you need salary relief, or if you just wanted to be different, but otherwise, I do like the Blue Jays order. It's kind of like, when are they going to pop out and have that big game? And certainly, that's a better park than they were in this weekend. They were in Tampa Bay all weekend, and the Rays have a really good pitching staff, and that has something to do with it. So I don't mind maybe mini stack of them, or taking a look at a couple of one-offs there with Tellez, maybe Kevin Biggio, second base.
I agree with you. And like when we look at that Nationals bottom of the order, there is some power and pop in there. I'm sure if Big T was on the show, he'd be talking up his boy Kurt Suzuki. I know it's not against the lefty, but he always loves talking about him. And Robles has power and Thames. So I think there's some opportunity here with this game that we can take advantage of. Winds blowing out in that game too. It's hot there in Washington. So I do think that's a game that I'm going to be targeting and trying to get some exposure to in my cash games and in tournaments. Let's move on and talk about the next game. We got the Atlanta Braves. We got the Tampa Bay Rays. And Hoop, I'm assuming you're not on any of the Braves because you like Glass now. You talked him up. There's no chance you're playing any Braves. How about that Rays side, though? I know you talked about him this weekend, and I think you're going to have a little bit of interest.
Maybe slight interest, not so much. there's a lot better spots, I think, for offense. You get a pitcher's park here on glass now, so definitely don't have much interest in the Braves. I think Fulte, I think he's good enough, especially in a pitcher's park. So I'm not going to be on the Rays either. I think this is a good game to avoid in terms of the offense. We have quite a few pretty solid hitting spots here that we'll get to, and I just don't think this is one of them. So I'm going to be off this. They're going to be low owned, both these offenses, but still don't have any interest.
All right, JT, any interest in playing some game theory here? Again, like Glass now, a guy, you didn't say you were all in on him, but you could get some opportunity here with this hot Braves offense. I know you talked up how the Braves were hot yesterday and you think they'd die down, but game theory wise, does it make sense for you?
Not against Glass now. I don't think I'll have many Braves lineups. The Rays, historically, Fultonavich's issues have been primarily with left-handed batters. And if his velocity is down, and if he's not fully fixed, then I kind of like the top two of that order. And Sutsogo is cheap as a cleanup hitter. You got Kiermaier down the bottom. Jose Martinez isn't really a guy that I love against right-handed pitching. If they had a lefty up there, I would be all over it. But not crazy, but I definitely have some interest in the top of that Rays lineup, either as one-offs or maybe just a mini stack if I go with a 5-man for one of these other spots that I think has a lot better environment.
All right, Hoop, we got Big T in the chat. He's hanging out with us, and he says Nats will score double digits tonight, easy. So what do you think of that? And what do you think of, we only got 160 people in the chat right now, Hoop, with 62 likes. What would Big T say right now to the people?
They better start liking, better start smashing the like button. That's definitely what he'd be saying. I know I do like the Nats, but I just, if they're going to score a bunch of runs, if they're going to score 10 runs, I just don't know how many home runs they're going to get. And I guess I do agree. I'd definitely prefer the bottom. You could do a wraparound, something with like Thames, Taylor, Robles, and then up to Turner. I don't mind something like that. But it's just a tough team to stack. Just not going to be a lot of home runs in that lineup.
Yeah, this is such a Big T thing too. I'm looking at this lineup. Asdrubal, Cabrera. That's one of his like Wilmer Flores guys. I feel like he talks about Cabrera a ton.
All his boys.
Yeah, he's got a ton of his boys are on this team in the bottom here. So I think Big T will definitely have some interest there. Like you said, he said double digits for them. So if you like Big T and you follow his stuff, might be in his GVP section over on the site for our core plays. So check that out over at Run Pure Sports, guys. Let's dive in. Let's talk about this next game. Has a little bit of weather concerns. We got the Cubs. We got the Reds. I'm going to go to you first, JT. We were talking pre-show, and it sounds like the weather's going to clear here a bit. And if that's the case, this is a game I think some people are going to want to be on. How about you?
Yeah. So I talked a little bit about Lester and his price and what I expect him in terms of his pitch count. And so This Reds team has a couple of guys that really, really do well against left-handed pitching that are, first of all, this lineup's really good. The lineup is good against lefty. I like, Irvin cheap at the top, Castellanos, Aristides Aquino, even Christian Colon with Kansas City would do well against lefties. So it's a lineup that is going to be a little bit tougher. So I do have some interest in the Reds. Wade Miley is, I hate picking on him, and I hate pitching him. So it's just a weird thing where I don't really have a lot of interest in him as a pitcher tonight. I don't have a ton of interest in the Cubs. I think certainly, I'll play some Cubs just because, again, I'm running 150, but I don't think they're going to be one of my main teams.
All right, Hoop. Again, Cubs, they're in, Great American Small Park. Tons of home runs are hit. I think you're going to like this game a lot. I'm sure you're going to be stacking this one up. Is it a game stack opportunity as well?
Yeah, definitely like this game. Like the offenses. I think I like the Reds a little bit more, but the Cubs are certainly in play. Just need to get the all clear on the weather. It looks like it's improved, so something to monitor on Twitter, and we'll obviously be in the chat talking about a little bit more. But yeah, if the weather clears up, it's a really good offensive spot. A lot of guys we can look to. Like I said, I really like guys like Irvin, Suarez, Castellanos, Aquino, if that's how you pronounce his name. All guys I have a lot of interest in tonight. It's a good game stack situation, like you said. And then on the Cubs side, Bryant, Rizzo. I don't mind playing in lefty-lefty matchups. He can hold his own against lefties. Contreras, I think, is in play. Souza is really, really cheap on DK. I think he's only like 2.6K in the outfield, and that makes him a very, very strong value option there. But a lot of guys to play here. We just need to get the all clear on the weather, and we'll definitely keep you posted on that.
Yeah, that's I think it's Aristides Aquino, but he's a big bat. He can. Yeah, you got it close enough, Boop. But yeah, he's a big bat that can hit it out. And man, I just looked at the lineup. You mentioned Souza. That's another one of Big T's, like, lefty masher guys, his buddy Free Money Freddie. So I'm sure Big T will be on them as well. This is a good spot. A game we obviously want to stack up and get us some exposure to. And I think in cash games, you definitely want to have some exposure to it as well. The question is the weather. And just stay tuned for that. We'll obviously talk about it in our Discord chat. If you haven't gotten over in our Discord chat, there's such a wealth of knowledge and tons of awesome members in there just talking about the games and updating you on things. So check that out, guys. Let's move on. Let's talk about this Brewers and Pirates game. And I'm going to shoot to you first, JT, here. This is a 9.5 total in the Pirates Park, which is crazy to think. Do we think there's going to be some runs here in this spot?
Yeah, I think you're going to see some runs on the Milwaukee side. This is one of those, as the Pirates call it, a piggyback situation where they're going to start Brault. He's going to pitch 2 innings, maybe 3 innings. And then they may go to Chad Cole, and then they're going to get, bring their bullpen in behind that. And I like the Brewers in this situation. I like the Brewers against, Brault has done well against them. So, but he's only going to go 2 or 3 innings. And I think this team with some guys like Ura, Yelich, I like at the top. I like Kane back if he's leading off today. So I do. This is a situation where I like the Brewers. I probably will not have any Pirates, if any at all.
All right, Hoop, how about you? It sounds like the way JT's talking about it, he's saying this might be a bullpen game in a way for Brault. And I know that's not a spot you typically go to. So I'm curious to hear what you think of the Brewers here with a 5.5 total.
Yeah, really like the Brewers and that total. Yeah, I mean, that's especially in this ballpark. That's a big number. 5.5 in this Pittsburgh ballpark. You don't see that all the time. So that should tell you something. The Brewers disappointed yesterday in a big way. I was on them with that wind and whatnot, and they could not get anything going. So maybe that keeps their ownership down a little bit as well. But really, really like the Brewers. They still have some upside in this lineup. Matchup is good. Like we said, it could be a bullpen situation. So definitely going to be on the Brewers, mostly because that team total is so high. And, like I said, you just don't see it that high in this ballpark. So give me some Brewers. I'm not going to play any Pirates. And that's a rough looking lineup, that Pirates lineup. Day-to-day lineup. I don't see the one for today, but their day-to-day lineup is not very good. So I just don't see us being on the Pirates very often. So definitely on the Brewers here, though. I like that call.
Yep, and they're in a bad ballpark too. Just the Pirates, not a team to like. That Brewers total, like I said, very very high. Definitely have to have some interest in that, and it sounds like you guys have it as well. Let's move on. Let's talk about this next one. We got the Seattle Mariners. We got the Houston Astros. We got Jesse James versus Kendall Graveman. And JT, I'm assuming you're only going to be on the Astros side only. I feel like I haven't heard enough chatter on them today. So are they going to be a low-owned stack that you want to be on?
Yeah, I like them. They're in play every night. Certainly, this Seattle team is not a good team. Their bullpen's not very good either, and we don't know how many innings Grauman's going to go. I want to clarify: the only place that I'll have that mild interest on Grauman is on DK, where he's 4.9, and it's just a little bit tougher. So if I want to get a more expensive stack, I might pair him with a Glass now or even a James. But yeah, Astros are in play every night. I don't. There's nothing about this. I just like other matchups a little bit more. They can certainly put up 10 runs any night. That lineup is, it's got six All-Stars in it. So it's just tonight they're kind of my second tier in terms of what I'm looking at.
All right. Yeah, I agree with you there on that one. Definitely an offense to look at. What about you, Hoop? What are you doing here with the Astros and the Mariners?
Yeah, just obviously the Astros side, being high on James, definitely not going to play the Mariners. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to really worry about ownership, which is weird, just not hearing much about them. I mean, that could change if some of these games get washed out, if we lose Cleveland, if we lose Cincinnati. Obviously the Astros ownership will come up quite a bit. It's just easy to play them, and with how cheap the pitching is and nowhere to really spend up at pitching, it's going to be easy to play a team like the Astros. And you can get unique too. I mean, you can come down to the bottom for some of these guys, but obviously the best bats are at the top with Springer, Altuve, Bregman. Brantley's really cheap on DK too at 3.3K. So, I mean, you can get a cleanup hitter for a team with a, close to 6 total at 3.3K. I think he'll end up being popular. Very good value over there for cash games. But yeah, you definitely have to like the Astros here today.
All right, guys. If you could, we're giving away a T-shirt. If we can get 150 likes, I got 167 of you watching right now. We got to get the 150 to give that T-shirt out, guys. So please hit the like on the video. It would be appreciated. I know we want to give out a shirt. We want to help you guys out, and we want you to help us out too. We're giving tons of great content. We want to keep giving away free content. I mean, if we're not getting the likes, we'll have to go behind the paywall and stuff. So please do that for us, guys. It helps us out a ton. Let's move on and talk about this next game that we got up here. We got the White Sox, we got the Indians, and listen, let's just keep it straight. We're going to talk about the game like it's going to go, but we know there's weather concerns. We know that there's issues. Hoop, how are you going to approach this game here?
Yeah, well, we definitely got to see what the situation is with the weather. It's dicey. I mean, the Cincinnati game and the Cleveland game kind of dicey, and there's some in Pittsburgh too. But if we get the all clear, I mean, the only thing I'm really going to be on here is maybe the Indians a little bit. I just don't. It's another team I don't love their lineup though, so maybe I won't have too much Cleveland. It's a 9.5 total, but it might be a stay away game for me, to be honest with you. Maybe a couple one-off pieces like Cesar Hernandez is pretty cheap on FanDuel. Maybe take a look at him. Ramirez, Lindor is one-offs, but I just don't see myself stacking the Indians too often this season. I'm just not a huge fan of the lineup, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this lineup, Hoop, right? And Franmil Reyes, Domingo Santana, like, sure, they have like boom bust upside, but they're not the best hitters. Daniel Johnson, I don't even know who he is. Roberto Perez and Oscar Mercado. Like, I mean, I know he's had his moments here and there, but he is not one of the greatest guys to roster. So I'm with you. This Indians offense is not the best. At least it makes stacking easier, right? You can play that 1 through 4, not worry about those other bums. But let me go to you, JT. What are you doing with this game if it plays?
Yeah, I have, and again, depending on what the weather's like, I do, like I said, I have a little bit of interest in Dylan Cease. And I have a little bit of interest in this White Sox lineup. I mean, it's a disappointing game for them yesterday, but they showed over the weekend. They have, there's a lot of firepower in here. Yasmani Grandal is one of the guys that I'm looking at catcher tonight. So I have some interest in the White Sox. It's probably not my top stack. We're about to get to the two that I kind of really like a little bit more than the others, but Yeah, I have some interest in the White Sox.
All right, yeah, I'm looking at the lineup. They got Moncada back. Obviously, he wasn't in on Sunday. That really watered down that lineup big time. They got Edwin Encarnacion, Delmonico. I mean, they have some good bats. So, and Wynn looks like it could be blowing out to right field as well. So that could be an interesting stack to go on. If you force me to pick a side, I think I'm with you, JT. I think that White Sox stack could be very interesting. A lot of firepower in that lineup. Let's go on. We got 2 more games left. And we're going to go over to you, Hoop. We got the terrible Kansas City Royals against the terrible Detroit Tigers. It's basically the toilet bowl. Who do you got here? Who are you picking? Any stacks here you got any interest in?
Take it easy on my Tigers. I mean, they're 2-1. I mean, what else do you want?
I mean, sure, I guess it's a nice start for the Tigers. Imagine this is actually something that could happen. They could sweep the Royals. They're that bad, and they could be 5-1 and in the thick of the playoff race, right? Because 16 teams get in this year. Will the Tigers make the playoffs? Is Hoop going to call it right now?
We can't count them out yet. You know what? I'm going to say they sneak in. How about that? I'm going to say they get in there after taking care of Tony's Reds this weekend. I have a little more confidence. In terms of DFS, we're not really on Fulmer, like we said, but I don't think I'm necessarily going to be on the Royals offense either. I think there's other spots that I'll definitely be looking to attack, but I do have some interest in the Tigers here, and they got some upside. You got guys like CJ Cron, who I like a ton. I think he's a great addition to the team. He has a lot of pop scope. Batting second, I like him. Goodrum, like him. Even Miggy can get in there, so I don't mind stacking the Tigers up, but it's going to be a top of the order stack. I'm not going to the bottom with like Romine, Jacoby Jones, Cameron Maben. Definitely not playing any of those guys. It's just going to be a top of the order stack. Don't think they're going to carry a ton of ownership, so I feel pretty good about the Tigers' top of the order. That's about it in terms of offense. And that, I actually kind of like them quite a bit. And they have a decent, respectable number here, 5. It's hot and humid, in Detroit, so that is a little boost as well. So top of the order of my Tigers.
Yeah, and we got Hoop. He's boots on the ground. He's there in Detroit. He can tell you. I'm sure he's outside with the kids running around earlier today. So, they looking at that Tigers lineup, man. Like I know Cameron Maben, he's not the best player, but he did have that little hot streak with the Yankees. I don't know if that was last year or 2 years ago. I can't remember, but it's not as bad of a lineup maybe now that I'm looking at it, especially when it's going against a guy like Mike Montgomery. JT, talk to me about this game. I've heard some whispers, even the chat. Someone said, hey, I'm looking to play the Royal stack. I hope it's low owned today. I don't know if you're targeting it because Fulmer might not go too long, but let's get your take on that.
Yeah, I have interest, just a couple of reasons, right? Wind blowing out, price is cheap, ownership. I think there's going to be a lot of ownership on that Cincinnati game, and that's good. I'm going to have pieces of it too, but I do like both sides of this a bit. On the Royal side, really primarily the top of that lineup. And again, I talked about how I think a lefty is going to come in pretty quickly after Fulmer. And I've always liked the top of that lineup. Last couple of years, they have some surprising offensive output. Salvador Perez is back. He hit a homer over the weekend. At least on FanDuel, they're fairly cheap. So I like them over there. I think you could even look to Ryan O'Hearn at first base. I mean, if you wanted to do a full stack there. And then on the Detroit side, I like it. They've added some pieces that are a lot better against left-handers. CJ Cron, Jordy Mercer actually hits left-handers well. This guy's been playing, I feel like for 15 years, but he always puts together these strangely strong games for this team. The 4, 5, 6 in that lineup. I like Nico Goodrum. I actually like Jacoby Jones. I like Jacoby Jones's game. I like him not as much at number 9, but he's going to be lower owned at number 9. So I do have interest in both these teams. Probably, if I was going, I would say only the top of the Kansas City side, and then with Detroit, you could go Jones up through the top.
Hoop, I'm going to go for you. We got a question from the chat. Twig DFS again. He's saying thoughts on Whit Merrifield as a one-off. Do you think that's a good idea on this slate?
Yeah, I think it's fine. Like if you need to fill his position, and I mean it's he's a really good hitter. I see no reason why not. He has some upside. So yeah, definitely.
All right. And we also got Steve Anthony. He said he's calling Jorge Soler, he's saying over here, it breaks the slate Nelly Cruz style. JT, there's no way that's happening, right? Is Jorge Soler hitting 2 home runs tonight?
No, maybe. I mean, Soler, I like this top 4. I think that Kansas City's obviously rebuilding. It's really their offense is about halfway there. It's the pitching side where they're just outside of starting pitching, they need a better bullpen. But I like the top four, and like I said, even with O'Hearn, the top five of this lineup, because Fulmer's going to be out of there in 2 innings, and Detroit's bullpen maybe mildly better than last year, but last year they were in the bottom five, and so you're going to give me a lefty coming in against Soler, Merrifield, Salvador Perez, and O'Hearn. Now that I think about it, if a lefty's coming in, maybe they pinch hit, but I like that quite a bit. You're going to give me 5 innings potentially of that Detroit bullpen beginning with a lefty. I definitely will have some Royal stacks.
Hey, JT, that's a 2-1 team's bullpen there, so you don't want to pick on them too much. Hoop told you they're 2-1 and they might be a playoff team, so watch out.
That's right.
Watch out.
Oh, watch out. The Lions will make the playoffs too this year. That's how 2020
definitely not. Definitely not the Lions. You don't have to worry about that happening.
Oh man, I was thinking because it's Bizarro World the way 2020's been. Who knows?
True.
We'll have to see. We got the last game of the slate, and this is a great one. One that a lot of people are going to be all over. We got the Mets. We got the Red Sox. It's 11 total here. Hoop, will go to you first. I'm expecting cash games. You're going to want to load up on both sides. Tell me the guys that you're liking and what you want to do with this game.
Yeah, definitely be the most popular game. Total's the highest at 11, and both teams projected to score right around 5.5 runs. I mean, the one thing I do like with Draftkings, they just went ahead and priced these Mets batters way up, which if they were at their normal prices or cheaper, it'd be super popular. But they got the prices way up there, which I think is good, which should temper their ownership a little bit. But they're all strong players, like Pete Alonso, a really good play. I like JD Davis batting cleanup, Wilson Ramos. Got some upside in this lineup, so I definitely like those guys. And then on the Boston side, man, they were frustrating at the end of the weekend. Came out of the gates hot that first game, and then nothing. 2 games in a row against the Orioles. Not sure if that will affect their ownership much tonight. I doubt it. I think people are going to be fine going right back to them. Benintendi's still cheap. JD Martinez is obviously a strong play. Moreland, Bogart. So I mean, just two strong offenses here. In terms of DFS, and like I said, DK did a really good job here with the pricing on the Mets guys, or else they would have been super popular.
Yep, agreed. I'm happy that they priced them up a bit there in that spot. Before we get to you, JT, I do want to ask the chat, guys. So we're on like the last game, right? I can drag this out as long as I can, but I mean, if you're looking here, we have 177 people in here, and we got 96 likes, and we're giving away a T-shirt at 150. All you got to do is, if you type in the chat once, at the end of the show, we're going to make a scroll up and pick a random person to get a T-shirt. So we got to get to 150 likes, guys. So you got some work to do. You need 54 more. There's 180 of you. We can definitely make it possible. JT, talk to me about this Mets Red Sox game. Where are you going? Both sides?
Primarily on the Mets side. The Red Sox have all sorts of pitching issues. They are down a couple of starters, which is why you're seeing Osich, who's going to open this game. He's a lefty. There's a couple of guys at the top of this Mets lineup that are just much better against lefties than they are righties. Rosario, JD Davis. There's even a guy like McNeil hits lefties pretty well. Brandon Nimmo hits lefties pretty well. And again, you're going to have Osich for an inning, maybe 2, and then you're going to have 8 innings of guys who, look, let's face it, got worked by the Baltimore Orioles this weekend. So, yeah. I mean, they're not only are they thin, but they're tired and they're not good. The Boston side, I have some interest in. Moreland is pretty cheap there. Devers and Benintendi are going to hit at some point. Like I said earlier, I'm going to have a couple of lineups with Waka just because I'm running 150, but that won't stop me from playing some of the Red Sox. But I have much more interest on the Mets on this side. And ownership I saw was kind of concentrated around Pete Alonso and Wilson Ramos. Looks like the rest of that lineup, and Conforto actually is a guy that jumps out to me as well. Looks like the rest of that lineup is going to be a little bit lower owned. People are going to gravitate towards that Cincy game, and I see Houston jumping up a little bit, and even the Brewers. So I like the Mets, especially. I think I think it's just one of those things. They got crushed last night. People are going to be like, oh, no, I lost my showdown because of them. No, I'm going right back to the Mets. This is a perfect opportunity for them to bounce back.
Yeah, I like the call, and I like both spots, obviously. Definitely have to be looking at that. One last thing, and you may have mentioned it, JT, earlier, or even just then, I may have missed it, but someone in the chat might want to know, how are they approaching the Zach Godley situation? Do you know how many pitches he's going to go? Can you give a quick breakdown on that?
Which situation is that?
Zach Godley going in for Osich. I know you talked about him real quick, but do you know how long he's going to go? Like, is he viable even to pick as a pitcher on this slate? Because pitching's bad, right? Is it something that we could approach? Obviously, we don't want to target this total, but someone might be thinking about maybe trying to take that approach as like a leverage play.
Yeah. So Godley, if I remember correctly, he's been up around 3-4 innings in intra-squad, and yeah, I don't know if I would go there. You know, I went to Lois Iga a little bit yesterday. The same reason, thought that he was an intriguing, a guy with talent who was going to come in who nobody was going to play, and he ended up going 3 2/3, 4 innings, something like that. The issue is these guys are going to have the same limitations that any of these starters are going to have. So if Godley comes in the second or third and pitches to the fifth or the sixth, I think that's a lot. So I'm not looking at him myself. So.
All right, fair enough. You know, we can answer some questions for the chat. So if you guys want to start firing some questions in there, that's perfectly fine. We're also gonna, you know, go over our stacks. We'll go over our home run calls, but start putting those questions in there now. Hoop, you had a big weekend in PGA, and we got some time. Why don't you tell the people kind of a little bit about our PGA products, some of the stuff that you do, and let them know, because I know our PGA product has been absolutely crushing. So I figure we'd let the people know so they can get in on the winners.
Yeah, the PGA product has been very, very strong. We do obviously a playbook, which we, you know, recommend some of our favorite plays and kind of tag them as like a RPS elite play if we all kind of agree that they're super strong plays based on, you know, the stats and whatnot, recent form, take a lot of different things into consideration. We list some fades too, some guys that will be off. We try to always list some fades that are a little bit higher owned that we don't feel great with. You'll frequently see guys like Ricky Fowler on that list. You'll frequently see guys like Patrick Reed on that list. Those are two of my least favorite guys to roster. So they make their way up there, but we also add in some fades that might be chalky type guys. Last week, one of our big fades was EVR, Eric Van Rooyen, who was for some reason super popular, but we were off him. And then we have our core plays, you know, 4 or 5 guys, me, Big T, Mangone, AP, Coop, Snyder, all kind of list our favorite cores. And I think AP's core was Finau and Matthew Wolf, and that was that team I had that did pretty well, was kind of based off that core. So yeah, a lot of different things. We have our live shows. I think we're going down to 1 live show here pretty soon with all these other sports starting. But the other part is the tier topper, where we list off our favorite golfer in each tier, pricing tier, from, you know, the guys from 11, you know, the top down to 10K, from 9K to 8K, all the way down. So yeah, it's been a good product. I know a lot of our members have made some solid money off those playbooks and cores and tiers.
Yeah, no, agree 100%. And one thing that Snyder's been doing is the bets article, and that's like kind of hidden. He does it like late on Wednesday night. Not that it's hidden on purpose, but it's just one of those things. There's so much content going on, you might miss it. And he's been crushing the bet side. I mean, I think he went 8-0-1 on his last 3 golf tournaments. I don't know what it was this week, but he's been doing great. So that's also part of our bet stuff. We got our Run Pure Bet site, so guys, check that out as well. Let's dive in and talk about the stacks now. Our favorite stacks of the slate. JT, give me your 1, 2, and 3 stacks on this one.
Yeah, I'd lead with the Mets as my number 1 stack. I would go Brewers 2, and then I'll go with the Royals as my 3rd favorite. You know, again, I like that game a little bit. So those are my top 3, and honorable mention to Cincinnati.
All right, Hoop, how about you? But before you give your stacks, we do have a question in the chat. So he just got here, Chris Stewart. So he's talking about Josh James. Give a quick pitching breakdown of what you're kind of doing before you give the stacks for anyone who showed up late.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of options at pitcher, obviously, when you start, looking at these games and the names. James is a guy that, was a reliever last season and, has some minor league data that suggests he's going to be a high strikeout guy. Hasn't done it yet at the major league level, so that's why there is some decent, reasons to fade him in tournaments if you're playing in larger field tournaments. I plan on nearly locking him in just because I'm a donkey and get locked into these chalky guys all the time. But he has a lot of upside. The strikeout stuff should be there, and like we said, basically for the other pitchers, there's just not that many other options to consider. It's a pretty weak slate for pitching, so I feel pretty good about James here.
Yep, I agree with you on that. Give me your stack soup. So give me the top three. There's a ton to like. I think obviously it's not the biggest slate in the world, but I still think we can give out three pretty decent stacks. What do you got?
I like the Mets. I like Cincinnati, and then the Astros. I think those are my three favorites.
All right, Mets, Cincinnati's, and Astros for Hoop on the stack side. Let's go to home run calls. Before we talk about the home runs, though, JT, give me your playbook breakdown. Right, Hoop just talked about the PGA side. You're doing a ton of the MLB playbook. So give the people kind of an insight of what you're doing on the playbook, so they can kind of get a taste of it without having to see it.
Yeah, the MLB playbook takes you through what we think are the best pitching options on the night. So you're going to have a little more options in there, even than some of us will have in the player pool. Just giving you guys that you can consider. Tonight it's going to be a little bit lighter. It's a little bit difficult to find good options tonight of guys who are going to give you the chance of going 5 innings, getting a win, or going 6 and a quality start on FanDuel, which is probably going to be tough tonight. And then we go through top stacks, top teams that we're looking to target on the night, and then a couple of players, maybe between 3 and 5 plays at each of the positions, except outfield, where we give you about 7 or 8, just guys that we're looking at, players that we think are in good positions, good splits, good environments. For me, a lot of those times you'll see that those plays pretty much mirror the teams that I'm putting into stacks, and then I'll just add a couple of other ones for those people that play cash, looking at guys that might be price depressed in better than neutral matchups.
All right. Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. Obviously, it's a great one-stop shop. I like to always call the playbook, where you can just go to it and easily build a lineup. I've done it in some sports, NASCAR for sure. I was sitting at the pool and I just built a quick NASCAR team one day for the Xfinity Series. So it's definitely an awesome one-stop shop that you can use on your phone, and you can do it on online as well. It's nice, clean, and easy to use. JT, give me your home run calls. Give me a high price guy, a mid tier guy, a low price guy that's going to hit one out.
High price guy. I'll go with Christian Yelich. It's not a bad park for left-handed hitters, and we've got that situation in Pittsburgh where you got followed by maybe Chad Kuhl and then maybe some of their bullpen. JD Davis on the Mets is a guy who's just really, really good against left-handed pitching. He'll probably only get that one at-bat at the beginning of the game, but he's fine against righties as well. And then Brandon Lowe on Tampa Bay. I talked a little bit about earlier Foltynavich's issues. Even if Foltynavich pitches a good game, he has a tendency to give up the long ball to left-handed hitters. And I like Brandon Lowe at the top of that order. And then one guy in Detroit that's too cheap that does really well, seems to be in good shape this year. CJ Cron, cheap play at first base.
All right, guys, I see people in the chat saying hit that thumbs up. You got to work for it to get the 150. We're only at 104, so hit the like. If so, we're going to give away a free shirt here. If not, we're going to get on out of here, and you'll have a chance maybe tomorrow to get that free shirt. Hoop, give me your home run calls.
At the top, I like Springer to hit one. Lead off there for the Astros in the middle range. I like Suarez for the Reds to hit one. And then a cheapie that I think I was going to go CJ Cron because that price is pretty crazy on DK at 3.3K. Love him over there, but I'll find someone else for us. Let's see. How about Scope? Stick with the Tigers. He's cheap.
All right. My 3 home runs. I don't know if someone said Pete Alonso and I missed it. I was just reading the chat, but he'll be my high price guy. I like Alonso a lot here in this spot. He gets that lefty to kick things off, so that'll be great. And on top of that, he's just an all around amazing hitter, and it's a great hitting environment. Then I got Benintendi. I know he hasn't gotten there, but I'm gonna use it as my cheap guy, I guess. I don't know if he considers that 2.7K over. Or he could be mid-tier for me because I have a different cheap guy I can go to. But Benintendi I'm going to go with against Waka. And that Mets Stadium, it's sneaky for lefties. It's better for power than you think. So give me Benintendi there. And then I'm going to head in that Cincinnati game, and I'm going to go to the guy that Hoop couldn't pronounce all the way correctly, but he almost got there, was Aristides Aquino. So I may have butchered the last name there, but I'm going to go with him. He's a big power hitter, and I think that, listen, when Lester blows up, he blows up. So I'm hoping he blows up and the Reds have a big day, because then I'll have a good day overall. But Hoop, we're at 115 likes. I guess we just gotta go to tomorrow and run it back then, correct?
Yeah, I mean it's been a loyal group though. I mean we've had a lot of interactions in the chat, so I say they've earned one. So let's why don't we go ahead and pick one?
All right. I'm gonna have to yield to Hoop. I'm gonna let him pick one. So Hoop, how about you do it? Make the scroll. We'll still give away a T-shirt. We'll still appreciate the likes, but Hoop, do the quick scroll up and pick someone, and don't pick the double-sided workbench guy. I'm on it. I'm trying to help you out.
You're not gonna believe who I just landed on.
All right, who'd you land on?
My boy, Mr. Landa. He's been in the chat for a while for our shows, and Landa, go ahead and send Mangone a message on Twitter, and we'll get you hooked up with a T-shirt.
Yeah, Landa, yeah, send it to me on Twitter. You know my handle, so send it there. I'll get it. I have to send some T-shirts over to Big T. So Landa 501, you are the winner of the Run Pure Sports T-shirt. JT, any final thoughts for the people before we get on out of here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously watch the weather. Take a look at how that's shaping up right before lock, especially if you're interested in any of the pitchers. And well, you shouldn't really be interested in the pitchers in the Cincinnati game, in my opinion. But if you do want to take a shot on Dylan Cease, obviously take a look at that. And then, enjoy these games. It's a Monday night, and the games are they're all starting, I think, before 8 o'clock. So it's a pretty good start to the week.
Yep, it could be an early night too, so that'll be good. I'll be sweating out the games. Don't forget to check out our site, Run Pure Sports, and don't forget to check us out tomorrow. I'm sure we'll be doing the PGA show, so come back tomorrow around 7 o'clock. We'll be doing that. We'll also be doing baseball as well, so join for that, guys. But we got to get on out of here. Thanks a lot for joining us. For me, Mangone, JT Hayes, and Hoop,